Hello and welcome to our UC Live, and this time we're talking about dbLinter, and we will show how to improve your PL/SQL code quality. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. First off, you can always ask questions in the chat. Just write there, and we will answer them live. So anything you got, please just ask us. And also, if you want to share this with your colleagues, or like you have to leave a bit earlier, this will be recorded and you can watch it on LinkedIn or YouTube even after the event. But first, let's introduce our guest, Philipp Cybersberg. Welcome.
Hello, Philipp.
Two Philipps at once today, yeah. All right, so let's get started, right? Should we jump?
Right. Okay, let's talk about dbLinter. So dbLinter is a tool suite for checking and improving code quality. So there are two approaches to do that. You can do static code analysis and SQL-based tests. The core, the most important information is in the dbLinter app, the rules behind the scene. So we have here 188 rules, which is quite a lot. And not all are as important, not all are important. Some are more important than others. So let me just log in. And when we look here at these 188 rules, I can sort them. I can query them by, for example, profile. We have a profile for essential stuff, which we think these rules, these 51 rules, are applicable for any application you have, which is based on Oracle database. And we have an extreme set of rules, which is extreme, right? So you have to try to label your subblocks and stuff like that. So let's look at the essential stuff. And there we have also we can filter these rules by quality area. Let's look at stuff which is regarding reliability. We have also a severity level, which is an error or a blocker, which is quite similar. And then we have already reduced our list of rules. So let's look at one particular rule. And this rule says never use row num at the same query level as order by. And we have some information here, and one of the information is, for example, regarding the severity level, which says when violating this rule, this may result in a bug, or incorrect result, or bad performance, something like that, or a security vulnerability. So this is something you should fix. So let's look at the example. And when we look here, we try to do a top-end query. We try to get the employees with the top 5 salaries. But actually what we do here is we use the row num at the same query level as order by. So what we do is we ask Oracle, get me 5 employees based on your execution plan, based on the storage in the block, and these 5 rows I'm going to sort by the salary. So this is not the result we want to have. So we could write that this way, where we just use an inline view to sort the employees by the salary in a descending order, and then in the outer view we limit the result to 5 rows, so to get the top 5 result. Another solution is if we are already on Oracle 12 or later. So this is the first one was the Oracle 11 solution. This is the Oracle 12 solution. If you are on this database, you can simplify that with a fetch first rows syntax, which is quite nice. So this is something which we can check with static code analysis. But we have also other stuff. We see that here that this rule is labeled with check, and we get here information that there is something else available which is called a SQL-based test. So let's look for that one, for rules in that area. So we have here SQL-based tests. And there are also SQL-based tests which are both a test and a check. So let's look at this one. And this rule says you should always use a default on declaration when you define a default value. So let's look at an example. It's easier to understand. We have here a table and we have here a column with the default value default. The disadvantage of this stuff here is that when I do not pass a value, when I pass a value null in fact, then I get also the null value here. I do not get the default value which is defined here. That's typically not wanted. So what you would like to have is that when you do not pass a value, that you get the defined default value. So you should do that. So we can catch that with static code analysis, but in reality, we don't always have the create table syntax fully exposed. Sometimes there is an older version, maybe we have alter statements and so on. And another approach is to just ask the Oracle database to query the data dictionary for this information. And this is called a SQL-based test. So we define here a query, I'll look at it a bit later, and we expect 2 or 3 results. At least these 2 columns where we say, hey, I need some kind of identifier. This is the schema, this is the table which is involved, and this is the column which has a default value. And then we can define a message. And we can also optionally define a migration script. This is the alter table statement, which adds this missing clause, which fixes that issue. So when I look here at the SQL query, then it looks quite complicated, but the really important stuff is here, where I query basically db top calls with some information, and I have also some placeholder which will be replaced. What this looks a bit more complicated is here this function, and this function actually generates this migration script. Okay, so these are rules. You see 2 types of rules, and what is also important are configurations. You can have as many configurations as you like when you are on a paid account, and we use dbLinter also for our stuff we store in the database. So we have here a configuration for dbLinter itself. I can open it and look at the definitions we have here. So a configuration, you can define what kind of file extensions do you want to look at, which files should be scanned. And you see here we have also already added the Apex extension, which will be for the Apex LAN, which hopefully will be soon available. So dbLinter will be able to also scan SQL and PL SQL parts within Apex LAN. So this is working. And then you also can define exclude file patterns, stuff which you don't want to analyze, maybe large load scripts or something like that, which you're not interested to be analyzed. And then we can define a connection. That's where we run these scripts, these SQL-based test scripts against. And we can define the rules which are enabled. For dbLinter, we are quite extreme. We have really enabled every single rule which is available. And then we have parameters. Parameters where you can steer how a rule behaves. For example, for naming conventions, we will see that later. And an important part are also when you run tests and you get some issues, you need to have the possibility to exclude findings. And that's possible here, where you can exclude something which was found here. For example, we say the connect user should not own database object, but the connect user, we also install there some United Code extensions, and they have to be there, these plugins, and so these are exceptions. So exceptions are part of the life. You have to maintain them, but you don't want to see these results every time you run an analysis. So let's switch to the IDE. And in fact, here I have opened the IDE for dbLinter itself. So first of all, let's have a look at the dbLinter extension itself. You can install it via the marketplace in Visual Studio Code and other IDEs which are based on Visual Studio Code. This is really a no-brainer to install it. Then you have the possibility to configure it. I've configured here with my tenant name. If you do not define anything, then this is also possible. Then you're on an anonymous plan with the essential rules, which do not need to have parameterized, and then you can run your static analysis there too. So we don't have here anything defined. The only thing which is interesting, we are really here on the configuration dbLinter. Okay, so let's look at some parts of it. For example, at the package. And it's not really super exciting because we don't have issues here. I can actually produce an issue. If I change something here, then I get a violation that I don't use this parameter anymore, of course, since I changed it and it doesn't match the naming conventions. Actually, none of these packages produce an issue. I can also look at this in the log of dbLinter, where I see how many times I spent for checking some functions, which is interesting on when you're debugging things, when something is quite slow, but we don't have problems. And I have more than 300 files in it, so I don't want to click on any file to see if I have a problem. So a better approach is to switch to the dbLinter view, where I have access to the command line interface. And I can run here checks directly from the IDE. So here you see how the command line interface is started, and it scans the directory tree recursively for all the files which I defined they should be checked. See here the duration, 326 files, and so on. And the information here I see is no errors found, no warnings, no information issues. I see that also in the reports, which is opened here. I see the information as well, the maximum complexity. I see units which have the certain complexity, how many characters, and some stats here. But actually, this is not super interesting to look at the project which doesn't have issues. So let's switch to something else, to another project we have prepared here. And actually, this is a project which is 100% generated by AI. So this is the prompt information. And I'd like to switch to Philipp because he produced this prompt, and maybe you can explain what this project is about.
So yeah, we need some issues to demo, and of course, we too are not able to produce any code with issues ourselves. I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's also a good example to show, like, in the age of AI, it's super easy to generate code. So that's, of course, a mechanism that's used often. And then also to demo that it's then still good to have something to look over the code and check for if it's actually good code. But first off, this is just a small demo project. I just thought about some ideas, and I just said, okay, please generate me some tables, like an Oracle schema, for like a school app with like students, teachers, classes, rooms, etc. And the overall goal to have like some small app where you can then generate a timetable, and it automatically picks which teachers in which room at which time, etc. And yeah, I made it in 3 steps. I just used GitHub Copilot with Claude Sonnet as a model. And first, yeah, let it create the tables, then a small, simple PL/SQL API, and then a complex PL/SQL API, which then ties everything together. And I really gave not much context. So it was able to be a bit more creative. And as you can see then now, if it was really creative in a good way, or if the code was actually quite good. So yeah, let's see.
Okay, so let's just quickly look at the settings of dbLinter. So I have here a workspace settings, and it's the UC live anonymous configuration which we are using, which is basically this configuration when you install this this extension without any configuration, without any settings. This is quite the same configuration you get there. So the most important rules are enabled and anything else is disabled. So we look at that. So let's start with the tables. And let's open the problems view here. You see here below we have 58 issues. And when I click here on a line, I see it also here. We have information about what is the issue. And I can click here on the detail screen, and I get automatically to the rule, where I have also the possibility to change things. I could here go and for the anonymous to enable this rule or disable it, change the severity, and if there are parameters involved, I can change them as well. So this is the link to the repository with the rules you have here. So in this case it says we should define a character semantics, and we have two choices. We can add a char semantic, we can add a byted semantic. So I choose char semantics. So we have really 50 characters, even if we are using multi-byte characters. And it's a bit cumbersome to change that for every single issue I have. I have 57 right now. And another option is to say, hey, let's fix all these issues which are related to this guideline violation. So just add character semantics for these issues. I can do that. And then I have now only 28 remaining issues, and I fix that. The next one is the issue which we have looked at previously, where default on null is missing. So in this case, I can add a non-null clause. I can add a non-null clause for insert only when I am on 23 or 26, or I can add an insert and update clause in one go. So I choose this one, or better, I choose to fix all problems I have in the file, because there are some quick fixes which are safe to apply to the whole file, and let's do that. So now I have only remaining two issues. And what's that? These are these varchar2 without the character length semantics. I had this issue before, but actually the original value was something like that. It was a char. And this was replaced then with the varchar. And the next step would be to fix that one. So let's fix all problems. And this create table script now looks good. So now let's look at triggers. We have triggers here, and we have various issues here. I don't want to go to in details for every rule, but we just apply all fixes which are possible here. And then we have here remaining issues. In this case, it says the number declaration should have a precision. Of course, this should be some kind of integer. How many digits? Actually, I don't want to spend time during that demo. I want to disable this rule here because it's a demo, right? So I've disabled that for this line. But actually, there are a lot of others here. So what I could do here with this dbLinter marker ignore, I can move it. I can move it to a different place, maybe, for example, in that block. So everything in that block is disabled, or I can move it to a position where it's applied on the whole file. For example, at the top of the file, I can add it here. So, and now I have only 2 remaining issues in that file. And this one is a more interesting one. This issue is about performance. And because we are checking here only if the count value is larger than 0. And you can imagine this could return several hundred or several thousand rows. It doesn't matter. It maybe returns more rows than necessary. So therefore, you should rewrite that statement. So let's apply a quick fix here. But actually, dbLinter in that case does not provide a quick fix. But if I have installed Copilot, for example, or another AI assistant, I can ask this assistant to fix it. So let's try that. I'm always curious what the result is in this time. Okay, it doesn't exist here. So let's keep that. And what it does right now is a select with a case and an exists. And here the result is just used and transformed to an integer. And in this case, only 1 row is fetched maximum. So this is much more efficient. And the AI has in that case produced a reasonable good result. We have another issue, the same one, a similar one. And we can apply here another manual quick fix. So what I can do here is, for example, instead of count, I can say any value 1. And in that case, just the first value is considered. However, if there are no rows there, then I get a null result, which I don't want. So therefore, I have to use coalesce and 1, and then I fix that too. So this is less intrusive change, so I'm more sure that the code will behave the same way as before. Okay, we fixed triggers. So what we have left here, we have packages. Look at the packages. Again, we have 11 issues here. Let's try to fix them automatically. Oh, we have a lot of these number issues. We copy that from here for the demo purpose. I don't want to deal with them right now. And again, we have one of these cases where I use coalesce value 1. So Copilot is starting to helping me. Good, this looks good. Let's look at the next one. Character semantics, we know that can be fixed automatically by dbLinter, that's fine. Let's look at the next one. Again, a lot of character semantics issues, let's fix them. And I want to fix all problems. So, and then there is an issue that we have here a join, but the table aliases are missing. So we don't have a quick fix by dbLinter in that case, only the marker, but I want really to fix it, so I ask Copilot again to fix it for me. It actually comes up with a reasonable result. We have to test it, of course, if it's really the right aliases, but it looks good. And then we have here the same ones. Here I do it manually, modules. And the next one here, same thing. It's modules. Number declaration, again, let's copy it also from triggers to fix that one. Then another counting issue here. And here, coalesce any value. So Copilot is becoming helpful. Good, fix that one. And now we have some unused variables. So the AI has generated some variables which are not used, so we are going to remove them. So now this looks good. And the last one, there is no issue. So we have fixed everything. So let's check that again with the CLI. We can run here the command line. And we get the information that we do not have errors, warning, or issues. That's nice. But we have something interesting here. Maximum cyclomatic complexity is 30. What is this? So I can go to this line, and I ask myself, how is cyclomatic complexity calculated? And actually I can ask dbLinter to help me there. We could just enable these rules for this plan. So let's go here to the rules. Say complex. There's a rules which is checking the complexity. And this one I want to enable. So I do that here. And now when I'm going back, doing a reload of the window, I should get here an issue. Yes, that the maximum cyclomatic complexity is larger than 10, which is the default parameter. And now I get information which parts of this unit are going to contribute to this complexity. I see for loops, ifs, and also this and within the if is contributing to it. So I get the total one of 30. Of course, I'm going to disable that again. I'm not interested to it, but just to show that this can be quite helpful. But what I want to do right now is to go to the configuration here, dbLinter. And now that I have solved all problems which are defined in the essential plan, I want to change this plan. I have now defined this UC Live anonymous plan, and I want to change it to a different configuration. So this UC starter. This UC starter is also available. All rules here I'm showing here are available as a free configuration. You just have to register. So I'm applying it here. And now when I'm going to dbLinter, let's close a bit all others and run all checks again via the CLI, I get now 286 warnings. That's a lot. And I can go here and look in which area, which rules are involved and so on. So I have some idea, but this is not really a good overview. There are other reports here. For example, this is the one which you are looking at, this check report here. There are reports for SonarQube where they provide rules and issues for it so that you can upload it to SonarQube. Or there is a generic Sarif log which I can also open, which is quite nice because this information shows me this file is quite big. I guess it's for a small one. It's about 10,000 lines of JSON document which was generated. And I see here the results organized by locations for each file. I see the one with the most issues is on top, but there is also a view ordered by rules, which I think it's quite nice. And I see here the top one is core G91 08, and you have 111 issues. So what is the issue here? It is naming conventions. It is naming conventions regarding the parameters. So I could go and update it to the naming conventions as defined here by default. In that case, it says the in parameter pdate does not match this regular expression, so it expects to start with the in. So it doesn't start with in, it starts with a p, and therefore I have this violation. So actually, you can say, I do not like really these naming conventions. I would like to change them. Instead of changing my code, I'd like to change my rules. And Philipp Hartenfeller has implemented a nice UI to actually quite easy change the naming convention parameters within dbLinter. So maybe Philipp, you can take over and show that.
Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, I also have access to the same tenant, the tenant that stores all the configurations, and I also have the rights to edit configurations. So I can go ahead and change this configuration. So here, this is the UC Live starter one. And here you have this parameter section, and you have this nice naming conventions button here. And this is a view to just let you change the naming conventions to your liking. So we have different categories, like how to name your schema objects, like tables, columns, etc., constraints, PSQL variables, constants, for example, PSQL types, but also for our case now interesting parameters. So here the default settings are this in convention. We can see it's regex based. This first part is about being incentive, so case incentive. So it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. And then it should start with in underscore. And then there's lengths of any characters of letters, numbers, dollar, hash, and underscore. And then the end. And I could, of course, edit this here. Or I could, for example, here we have some guidance. So now it's like P, and you can see here now we have like also a view that shows the output of that test. Like PM no would be fine, PIM no would not be fine. I could change like to PI, and yeah, you could change your own values in here, like something, and you could see, okay, it does not work. So that's a nice screen just to be able to to change your naming conventions. So back to our case, we had P underscore for everything. So I would be able to just change this. If I'm edit, I can also make this for out and in out. And yeah, then I can just save this configuration. And now if Philipp refreshes his VS Code, we can see that it now also works. Okay, so back to you.
Try that. So I get back to this view, and we had here 286 issues, 111 were these parameters. So just let's close that everything and rerun it. And now we have only 167 issues. And if I open that report here, or better the serif log, and the rules, then I see I do not have issues regarding these naming conventions anymore regarding the parameter. There are other issues right now, with how many? Regarding application errors, regarding trigger namings, and so on. But you see how these things can be changed. I stop here fixing that project. I think you've got the idea what can be done, and maybe we have some questions to be answered.
Yeah, I have a question. Can I use this also with like GitHub or like any automation server so that it runs not just in my editor, but also like on a pipeline?
Yes, the CLI which is here, which are shown here, which is integrated also in the Visual Studio Code extension, can be run standalone. So we have a demo project on GitHub. That's called actually dbLinter demo. And there is a description what we were doing based on some example files and so on. And there is a CI workflow which is described there, which does a lot of things. It analyzes all branches, and actually it installs an Oracle database based on the image of Gerald Wenzel, and this is quite fast. So we install the application and download SQL CL, then we download the dbLinter CLI and we run it here. And then we can produce a result. A quite nice result should be linked here. I think, for example, these code scanning alerts, this is quite nice. This is based on the Zarif file, which is uploaded, so you get also on GitHub or GitLab, if you're using it, quite similar information about where a certain issue happened. So based on this information, you can decide if you accept a merge request or a pull request and so on. So this is the way how you can integrate it. Does this answer your question, Philipp?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, other than that, we don't have any other questions. Maybe we could talk about pricing.
Yes. Pricing, actually, we have an anonymous subscription, which is free. You can just use it, you install it. You don't have to log in somewhere and you can use it. Then we have a starter subscription, which is also free. You just have to log in the web GUI I showed you there, add your credentials and so on, and then you're ready to use it. In Visual Studio Code, we're just limited to one configuration. And then we have two subscriptions. One is an essential subscription where you can manage as many configurations you like, add, change parameters as you wish. And there are also, you are unlocking 20 plus additional rules which are available only there. And then there is also a professional subscription where you're even able to define your own rules. So let's look at the pricing. So if you're a single user, you see here that the pricing starts essential with 50 euros a month, and for professional it's 80 euros per month per seat. And if you have a lot of seats, you see it will get cheaper when you have more developers working with dbLinter. Okay. Would you like to add something, Philipp?
No, perfectly fine. Yeah, it's actually Pierre's asked something. It's hard to reach in a secure proxy. And without going into too much detail, we can definitely say that we are thinking of a solution to make this possible in like an air-gapped environment in the future.
Yes.
All right.
Actually, there is a FAQ regarding that question.
Yeah.
Is an on-premise subscription planned? And yes, we know how to do it, but just wait for the first customer who wants it, and then we are going to implement it. It shouldn't be that hard.
Perfect. So yeah, if you want to try it out, if you have any other questions in the future, just reach out to us. So I will add the email address into the stream now. And yeah, you can also contact us via this GitHub repository. There's a free one if you have any issues, or just write us on any social media. And yeah, if you don't have anything to add, Philipp?
No.
I think we can already thank you for tuning in. The sun is now shining directly into my eyes. And yeah, thank you very much for joining, and see you in the next live stream.